Hello and welcome to the Development Podcast. Today we're discussing energy efficiency. I'm here with Jaz Singh from the World Bank Group, who's the lead author of Power More with Less, Scaling Up Energy Efficiency for Growth and Energy Security. Joining us on the line from Europe is Melanie Slade from the International Energy Agency. The IEA, for short, works with governments and industry to shape a secure and sustainable future for all. Jaz and Mel, welcome to the Development Podcast. So, energy efficiency is quite a niche subject. When I think of energy efficiency, I think of my wife following me around the house, turning off lights. So, Jaz, how would you very simply explain energy efficiency at the most practical level for your friends and family?
Sure. Energy efficiency is basically using less energy to provide the same level of service. And I often explain it with a simple light bulb. We've had one light bulb for the last 100 years, this incandescent light bulb. It used typically about 100 watts to deliver a certain amount of light. And today you can buy an LED, which looks very similar. It uses about 10 to 12 watts. So we can get the same light for about a tenth of what we could before. And if you just expand this to cars and to appliances and to machinery and everything else, we can just think how much more we can do with much less energy than we're using today.
Great example. And Mel, the next obvious question is, how is the world currently doing in terms of energy efficiency?
So this is the difficult one. Unfortunately, we're not doing as well as we'd like to be. So energy efficiency improvement, the rate of intensity of energy efficiency improvement is only about 1% a year at the moment, and we need it to be up to 4%. But the good news is that we do have all the technologies we need to be able to do this. We don't have to wait for anything. And we've taken a look back at how countries have performed in recent years, and we note that many countries, big economies, have improved at a rate of 4% a year in the past, and some have done it persistently. So the good news is that it's doable, but we do need to make sure that we have the right policy environment in place to demand more efficiency, to drive more efficiency, but also to drive investment in efficiency as well. So we think policy is the key.
Now, obviously, we all have seen the news on energy prices and energy security being big issues across the world. So, Jaz, why aren't we making better use of what we have?
I think consumers and businesses find it very hard to be more efficient because they're not always sure what to do, and they don't always have the means to do it. Consumers may not have the financing that they need to pay for efficient appliances and equipment that may cost more than regular equipment. They may be faced with a wide variety of options to choose from, and it's not always easy to decide which one is going to provide the best efficiency. There may be other information that's lacking. They don't know how much energy it's going to save. They're not sure if the cost of the investment is going to pay back over time. So economists call these market failures, and the job of the government, World Bank, and others is to help overcome those barriers by providing information to consumers, by providing affordable and accessible financing to make it easier for consumers to make the right decisions that are best for them.
Thank you, Jaz. So, air cooling. This is one energy efficiency issue that IEA has prioritized. Why is air cooling so important?
So to start with, it's the strongest driver of increased energy demand in buildings. And it's up to about 9% of global electricity demand now. And this is increasing rapidly. So in many parts of the world, this quite rapid growth is causing stress on grids, and it's driving peak demand. And peak demand is the most expensive electricity to provide. And so especially during heat waves, we're seeing this growth in cooling actually making grids less reliable because it's straining them and making the whole system cost more. So it's really a problem. There are many angles to this, but one of the most important to us is equity. So if you take a country like India, only about 10% of households in India will own an air conditioner. But that's growing rapidly. And in 2024, there was a record 14 million units sold. And if that were to continue, then that could drive an increase in energy demand of about threefold. So this is, clearly a big issue. But, it's not a luxury. It does save lives. And one of the issues with equity is that it's richer people that could afford cooling. So good policy can help cooling access to less well-off households. Of course, as Jazz said, the most efficient appliances use much less energy. But there's a perception that they are more expensive, and they can be more expensive. But we'd say they don't have to be. And energy efficiency isn't necessarily driving the increased expense. It can be other features. It can be other elements like brand. So we've done analysis in Southeast Asia, in Latin America, in Sub-Saharan Africa, and we found that you can find energy efficient units at the same price as best efficient units. So if you were in Southeast Asia and you had $500 to go and buy an air conditioner, you could get one which performs at 3 watts per watt or 6 watts per watt at the same price. And of course, the more efficient one costs a great deal less to run. So we kind of take exception, I suppose, or we challenge the sense that governments say they can't necessarily introduce more ambitious policy because they want to make sure that their populations have access to energy services. And we'd say the evidence doesn't necessarily bear that out. You can be more ambitious with policy whilst providing access to services at reasonable cost.
Thank you, Mel. You're making me realize that I have no idea how efficient or inefficient my own air conditioned system is. So I imagine there's a part of, sensitization to the public as well. Yeah, or public awareness. Jazz, the World Bank's report, Power More with Less, calls energy efficiency the invisible powerhouse, including for economic growth. How can we quantify the importance of energy efficiency?
So when I talk to energy and finance ministers, I often say, how much money are you spending right now importing energy from your neighboring countries? And how much would you save if you could stop importing it by using a domestic resource, which you have, which is energy efficiency? Now, if you think, as Mel said, we're trying to get to 4% gains by 2030. If the world achieved that, that's a big if, it would add $2 trillion, that's with a T, $2 trillion to the global economy. The potential benefits are massive. Study after study shows that $1 that the government invests in energy efficiency will yield $3 to $5 in benefits in terms of job growth, in terms of economic growth, in terms of reduced expenditures, reduced imports. So the benefits are literally there waiting to be tapped. And we, through this report, we're really calling on governments and businesses and everyone to just take that next step and tap into that savings that's there and ready to be had.
That's really interesting. It sounds almost like an easy pitch. It sounds obvious. So what is the challenge in terms of why some governments aren't investing more in energy efficiency?
It comes down to what's easy to finance. It's very easy to finance a power plant. You can find a place of land to get a private producer. You add it to the grid. But energy efficiency, it's not owned by any one person. Everyone has a role to play. And when you have every energy user that is both a shareholder and also a beneficiary, it means it's no one's problem, it's everyone's problem. And it's this collective responsibility that sometimes is a little bit more difficult to do than a simple piece of infrastructure that the World Bank finances every day. But countries have done it, we've seen how to do it, and we know what needs to be done now. As Melanie said, we have the tools, we have the technologies, we have the policies. Now we just need to really make it happen.
Mel, what are some of the benefits to raising our game on energy efficiency?
Well, I think Jazz has mentioned the main ones, but energy efficiency does many things for us. It improves energy security, which is really important to governments. It's incredibly important at the moment in this troubled world that we're living in. We like to point out, as Jazz said, that energy efficiency is the one fuel that every country has in abundance. It's a homegrown fuel. It makes energy bills more affordable for people, so that we have less unrest. Perhaps it makes businesses more competitive, so they keep on adding value. They keep on protecting jobs. Energy efficient jobs are often really long-term local jobs as well, which is obviously very important to governments. And there's really good evidence to say that more comfortable workplaces make people more productive. More comfortable learning environments make students more successful. And in some countries, there's even good evidence to show that insulating people's houses and draft-proofing, weatherproofing houses reduces medical bills. So there's a whole raft of these things. And what we try to do is, whenever we talk to a government, is where are they at this moment in time, what's really driving them, and then provide the evidence for those particular benefits. So the IEA refers to these as the multiple benefits of energy efficiency, and we have kind of web resources if people want to look at more about that.
Thank you, Mel. Those are great insights. And you also helped me with my next question, which was, the World Bank Group has prioritized job creation and identified energy as one of the 5 sectors with the greatest potential for job creation. We've also seen a strong focus on Mission 300, which aims to provide electricity to 300 million people across Africa by 2030, unlocking opportunities for prosperity. So, Jazz, how can we continue to build coalitions to leverage energy efficiency, this powerhouse, as you put it, to fuel economic growth, to create jobs?
Well, I think this is a collective call to action. Everyone sees benefits of energy efficiency, whether you're a household consumer, whether you're a small business, whether you're a municipality. And so what we really want to do is to push governments to put the right policies and programs in place to make each country, a lot more efficient than it already is today. As I mentioned before, there are barriers, there are market failures, there are challenges. People are used to doing things the way they've always done them. So we call that behavioral inertia. People are reluctant to try new things. And so what we really need to do is try to push them to do things differently so that they can see the gains. And the World Bank is but one of many players in this. So it's really important that we forge partnerships with folks from the IEA, with the other regional development banks, with local commercial banks, with governments, with the private sector, with everyone. Because unless we all work together, we're not going to be able to realize these efficiency gains.
Thank you, Jazz. One follow-up question: what insights does your report offer into what needs to happen to create the right conditions to unlock the potential benefits of energy efficiency? And can you give any examples of where this has already happened with World Bank Group support?
Sure. Look, as Mel said, policy is key. Without good policy, it's very hard for businesses and consumers to have the incentive to do what needs to be done in order to save energy. And the government can play a facilitating role in providing information and access. One of the things when we prepared this report, we looked at so many programs where it was the World Bank or other donors or even governments. They did a small project. Maybe they renovated 50 buildings or they provided 50 efficient air conditioners. And after that, they said, okay, we're done now. And what we want to challenge governments to do is that program was successful in its modest ambition of 50 buildings. But you have 20 million buildings in your country. what will it take to renovate all of those buildings? What will it take to change every air conditioner in a country? What will it take to renovate every factory so that it's producing the same or more for less energy? And that requires a sea change in how financing is provided, how information is provided, how we organize the market. It means we need a lot more manufacturers and suppliers. We need a lot more competition. We need more energy experts that are providing advice to everyone, and to build this entire ecosystem, but not build it for 50 or 100 buildings, but really build it at scale. And a few countries have been able to do that. And what they see is once you start to get to that scale, the first thing that happens is prices come plummeting down. If I'm selling hundreds of millions of light bulbs in a country, every supplier in the world is going to want to be a part of this marketplace. And as prices come down, it makes them more affordable for the lower middle class and even the poor to take part in this. And as Mel said, we don't want to leave the poor behind. The poor spend a much higher share of their income on energy, and anything we can do to ease that burden will have ripple effects in the economy. Now, we've seen countries like India, like China, like Mexico undertake major programs, national programs at scale, and have seen and reaped the benefits that these programs provide. And the report has a number of these programs as examples to inspire other countries to do the same.
So I would be curious to hear from both of you on, what gives you hope in terms of technological developments or even discussions that you've had that there can and will be a sea change in the world's approach to energy efficiency. And maybe I'll start with you, Mel.
Thanks. So COP28 in Dubai in 2023 saw all countries committing to work together to double the rate of energy efficiency improvement. And we've never seen that level of public commitment before. It was a monumental agreement. And of course, we're all part of the community that made that come about, and we're all very proud of doing that. Now, as a response, we're seeing some countries, some big regions, actually taking energy efficiency much more seriously now. The European Union, I would like to say, is standing out there and showing what can be done with political will. And major economies, Jazz has mentioned them, but China and India, they're also making really good progress. And they're innovating with policy, and they're actually demonstrating things that others can follow. So, I mean, the good thing is we said, as we've said, we don't need to wait. We have all the ingredients we need. We just need to get on with it.
Thank you, Mel.
So every time a new challenge presents itself, the speed of the innovation is staggering. One of the things we note in the report is there's many new drivers of energy demand. Mel mentioned cooling, but there's also data centers. And data centers are huge users of energy. But what we're starting to see already is green data centers that are going up, that are efficient and use as much solar energy or renewable energy as they can, because they know that they can't continue to rely on the grid to provide all of the energy they need for all of these different things. So, you see in heating and cooling, heat pump technology has done really, really well. And governments and the private sector are also innovating with new types of business models, new financing schemes. So although there's a lot of challenges ahead of us, the innovation that the world has to solve these problems continues to be really, really, really a source of optimism. But we still have more work to do. But as Mel said, it's time to get to work. We have a lot of tools available to us, so we need to get on with it.
Mel, Jazz, thank you again for this very engaging discussion on energy efficiency. It's clear to me that there are a lot of opportunities for our governments to do better on policy front, for international organizations like ourselves to invest more in solutions that are going to help not just local communities, but entire national economies. And there's also a lot of opportunities for us as individuals to step up our awareness and knowledge of opportunities to improve our energy efficiency and to make our small contribution to a more efficient use of energy across the globe. So thank you again for your time, and I look forward to learning more about opportunities on how I can be a more efficient user of energy as well. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.